in to the hottest station on the planet.
Resistance is futile. The revolution has begun.
You're listening to Rebelpreneur Radio, helping you break the rules and build the business you need for the life you want. And now, broadcasting his pirate signal
from somewhere beyond the status quo,
here's your host, best-selling author, marketing and media strategist, Ralph Brogden.
Hello and welcome to Rebelpreneur Radio, the show that helps you build the business you need so you can live the life you want. I'm Ralph Brogden. So many people I talk to struggle with self-confidence, especially entrepreneurs. You would think they would be very confident, and often they do put on an air of confidence, but privately they tell me that they struggle with doubt and with confidence when they go out to talk about their business or talk about their projects. Today's expert is going to help us to build self-confidence and self-esteem. His name is Davide Di Giorgio. He is a #1 international best-selling author, speaker, TEDx Speaker Coach, leadership coach, and an ambassador for creating unprecedented results for uncommon people like you and me. He is on a mission to tackle bullying and build confidence and self-esteem while funding dream projects for high school performing arts students and teachers. David is a contributing author in the Better Business book, Reach Your Greatness, and a writer for Success Profiles magazine and San Diego's Life by Design magazine. David, welcome to Rebelpreneur Radio.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on, Ralph.
It's my pleasure. I want to dig into this concept of why people struggle with self-confidence. How do we build up their confidence in their self-esteem? You work with people of all backgrounds and all ages to help them do that. So I want to get your techniques and your secrets, but before we jump in, tell us a little bit about how you got started in this direction. What's your background?
So I am a former composer, theater producer, director, creator, who at the same time that I was doing all of that, I had a successful theater production company in Toronto for several years. I decided that I wanted to give back a little bit, so I became a teacher. I was a high school music teacher for many years. And while I was doing all of that and the theater, I also decided to step more into the personal development world, and I opened up my own yoga studio. So I have this unique sort of fusion of backgrounds. There's a whole bunch of other things in there too, but those are sort of the three big main things that I bring together, sort of this performance production world, education, and personal development, self-awareness. And when I moved to the US about 4 years ago now, I started to see amazing people get on stage, because I've been in a high performance world for most of my life when I wasn't working with students. And when I started going to events with entrepreneurs and business people and very successful people, I saw a lot of people get on stage and not be super confident, not be super great, not be able to explain what they do, not be able to really stand in their power. And I thought, wow, I guess there is a need for people to not only become better speakers, but to also, because speaking is only the expression of what you're doing. But if you are not 100% resolute, sure in who you are and what you do and what you're all about, that translates as not being confident. And so I really love to work with people who are up to changing the world, who want to make a positive transformation for others. And I really help them to discover who they are first, so that they can share their mission and their message with the world unapologetically and unwaveringly at the same time.
I really love that. And I'm so glad we connected and we got you on the show, because this is an issue that comes up over and over again, not just in the people that I talk to and the people that they work with, but in the people that I work with, where I'm helping them to master their message. And what I discovered is the same thing that you discovered. If we haven't really mastered who we are, why we are here, it's hard to master our message, and that translates into a lack of confidence. And prospects, clients, customers, the world, they pick up on that lack of confidence, and that inhibits you from being able to fulfill your full potential, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And I know it's a huge topic. I know actually a handful of your recent guests have also sort of talked about this. And ever since the great Simon Sinek came out with his Start With Why, I love to joke about this because, he wrote the book, it's astounding and everything, and nobody understood it. And so then he had to write the follow-up book, Find Your Why, because it's not easy. How do you find your why? How do you figure that out? And truly what I discovered, so my specialty in theater was musical theater. And when you think about it, musical theater is completely abstract. You have people singing lyrics, which on a good day make no sense if you were to read lyrics of a song. And they're able to move audiences into action and have an emotion and create a response to that. And what I started to notice is the best performances and the best performers really understood who they were being in that moment. They were able to sort of play the character and become the emotion, become the character. They understood what was going on. And so I've made it my life purpose, my own life mission, to really help people do that so that they can create standing ovation moments for other people. And it really does come down to figuring out who you are first. And when you understand who you are, then you really can figure out why you are who you are.
Man, I love that. And that is so apropos to everything that we are doing in building our businesses, especially building a personal service business where people want to do business with other people that they know, like, and trust. And so we got to know who we are and what problems we solve for people and how to communicate that effectively and in a way that instills confidence in the market that you are who you say you are. You can do what you say you can do, and how it's more than just putting together a fancy website, creating a sales funnel, and getting some killer copy. Something's got to shift on the inside of us, doesn't it?
Well, and especially if you want to do it for the long term and for it to be sustainable. There's a lot of people right now, it's like the funnel epidemic happening right now. And people are, there's a formula and you figure it out and you may have some success with that. But can you really sustain that over the long term? And really, when you get face to face with people and they're going to feel whether or not you actually believe what you're saying or not. Or on the flip side of it, eventually you're just going to get tired of doing that thing that made you all this money or whatever that worked for some time. You're going to figure out, well, I want to move on to something else. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to keep essentially changing my careers every couple of years when the fad has passed.
Yeah, it's too much work to build a brand, launch it, market it, just begin to get some momentum to it, and then decide that, well, instead of doing underwater basket weaving, now I want to come over here and do, something else and start all over again. And that's probably a symptom of not really figuring out who you are to begin with, isn't it?
Yeah. And I really think also that right now the market is so saturated with the message of you have to deliver value. And I keep saying, but that means now all of a sudden we're no longer even honoring what we know or the fact that we arrived in this world already valuable and complete. And instead we're looking out there for what problem can I solve for you? And yes, I understand we do need to shape messages and missions in a way that, is useful for other people. But at the same time, if we really figure out what are we all about, I mean, you can bet your bottom dollar that the Elon Musks and the Richard Bransons and all of the extraordinary people on this planet, from Jesus to Dolly Parton, have figured out what their purpose is and what they're really about. And their entire message isn't a soundbite. It's who they are. It comes through in everything that they talk about. So their brand is them, and then it's an extension of them throughout everything that they do. You don't guess what they're all about. Like, you can identify all those people with one word pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what a great example of people who have really mastered this and done it well. They were able to speak with charisma and with confidence and create change and create those transformational shifts, just by being who they are. But that's the key, isn't it? Stripping away all of the fake facade, the fake branding, and just getting down to being authentic and real, and I like what you said, not just delivering value to people in terms of, okay, you've got a problem, I've got a solution. That's kind of basic. We got to do more than that. It's not just delivering value, but realizing you are valuable and being valuable to other people.
Yes. And what I like to say is the extension of that also, I speak about this a lot actually, is what about if instead we delivered vision? Because when you look at all those people, pick your favorite visionary, pick your favorite celebrity, pick your favorite star entrepreneur, and you think about them and you say, did they deliver value or did they deliver vision or they deliver both? And every time I speak to an audience about this, they all agree that vision is valuable. And so, okay, then why don't we work on delivering a vision and developing a vision instead? And people will follow visionaries, as we can see. I mean, let's see how much longer it's going to be for people actually follow Elon or the others into Mars, right? To colonize or to vacation or whatever it is that they're all doing, right? But I mean, that's a crazy vision, but we follow.
I love that. Not just delivering value, but delivering vision. I love that. Why is vision so valuable to people?
It's exciting. It shows us something bigger is possible. It's the I guess the best way I can describe, the best parallel I can make is Disney. The Walt Disney Corporation is incredibly successful on one thing and one thing alone, the concept of dreams. And that is synonymous to vision. And people want to step into, grow into, imagine something bigger than themselves. And I believe it's because we are created out of something that is bigger than ourselves. I mean, I always like to joke, whether we believe in God or unicorns or the universe, the fact of the matter is, no matter which way we look at this, whether it's from a scientific perspective or otherwise, we are miraculous. The fact that this all works is a miracle. And I think it's in our DNA. And so when people commit to a vision, and when we look in history, the interesting thing actually is it's not always for good, because there have certainly been some negative visionaries in the world who've done a lot of harm in the world, and still people follow. And we have to look at that. People follow visionaries. They love big ideas. They love the possibility that something bigger is possible. And I think that's sort of what captures the human spirit.
Excellent. Your website is beingunapologetic.com. Un is capital letters there. Being unapologetic. What's the story behind that?
It's so funny because for several years, actually, I was sort of playing around with, well, speakers want to be unforgettable. You want to be unforgettable. And it's kind of a lukewarm word. And, and one day I was at an event. It's
forgettable, huh?
It seems to be forgettable from a branding perspective. So one day I was at an event and I just started to say what I believed. I started to share my own vision. And what I realized for myself is that maybe it's because I'm Canadian and, there's the joke that Canadians say sorry for everything. And I've spent my whole life apologizing. And I said to this person that I was speaking to at this event, I said, what if you could share what you believed unapologetically? And the next day she sent me a message and said, I want to do that. I want to be unapologetic myself and share my message that way. And I thought, okay, that's it. And like I said, as I look back on my own life, I've spent my whole life not being unapologetic, rather apologizing for who I am, what I'm about, trying to play smaller. And it was only when I started to truly step into my own power of being unapologetic myself is that my whole brand, my business, everything started to come together, which is why I wrote the book after the same name.
Excellent. Yeah. And you are the #1 international best-selling author of the book, Being Unapologetic. So you're definitely, you've got the message dialed in, but more than that, you've got the vision of of who you are and what it is that you have to offer the world. And I'm glad that you don't apologize anymore. That's actually a positive thing in your case.
It sure is. Yes, absolutely.
Now, you work with a lot of different people. But part of your work that I want to talk about is getting into bullying and helping teens and students to build confidence and self-esteem. And tell us a little bit more about your work with them and how that translates into business as well.
So what I realized over my own journey, high school is a big turning point for a lot of people. And actually, I think for everybody, it is the turning point where you make decisions about who you are and what is possible for you and what your vision may be at that time. And having been a teacher for several years and working with educators for a long time, I realized that by possibly going back into schools and giving kids and teachers the resources, the tools to start to figure out who they are, and most importantly, to celebrate who they are, to recognize, the opening line of my book, Being Unapologetic, reads, "Life begins with celebration." And it seems like somewhere along the way, we forget that. And what I've noticed through my own experiences in my lifetime is the more we learn to celebrate who we are, where we are, what we're doing on an ongoing basis. Some people call it gratitude. Some people call it joy. The more that we really grow into who we are and our message. And so as I was putting the book together, I decided to visit a high school just outside of Los Angeles, and I put together a workshop for them. And we spent some time together, and I really empowered them to declare who they are, who they want to be, and to share what they believe truly, and to be heard, to be seen and heard. And it was amazing to see the transformation in a short amount of time. We were there for part of the day. And the cool part is, so I have this big idea that ultimately I'm on a mission to get corporate endorsement and celebrity endorsement for this kind of a project, where at the end of the day, they don't know it, but they got a large check given to them. And so that they can go out and do things that will bring more awareness to their programs and what they're doing. And in this case, so what's really interesting is I asked the teacher for this project, I said, what would your kids really like for the program? Well, the answer that came back, and it was actually quite shocking to me, was, we want to feel more confident and respected on campus. And I thought, wow. And this was a performing arts program, a singing ensemble. And so what they did with their $5,000 that they were gifted at the end of this day is they commissioned a composer to write a piece for them that they're going to be premiering this spring. And so for those people who don't know how this works, essentially when you commission a piece from a composer, your name, so that choir's name and that school's name, is going to go on that piece of music forever.
Wow.
And so now, they're going to be able to walk around campus feeling like, in their own words, like the football team or like the wrestling team, right? And it's such a small thing. To feel confident changes the trajectory of their life. And so I'm really obsessed with going back and helping students, because I was one of those kids that the performing arts literally saved my life. And I think that the performing arts attracts kids who might not fit in other places. And by giving them a platform to be seen and heard and helping them to develop who they are at a young age will truly change the future for them and for all those other people that they'll be able to pay it forward to also.
Yeah. I love the approach of going back into that pivotal moment of life, right there in high school, right there at the moment where kids are most impressionable and most susceptible to what everybody else says they should be, or how they should look, or what their brand should be, so to speak, their social brand. And if we can correct that, or we can help them and support them in that transitional place there in high school, they are going to be very well adjusted going into college and going into their first careers, starting their businesses. They're not going to have all of these confidence issues that adults seem to have when they don't have that good foundation there.
Exactly. And like I said, I've become absolutely obsessed by, I'm 43 now. And when I look back to my own high school experience, I think to myself, and there were, ups and downs, of course, as there always are. But it was in those moments where, a teacher who was never my teacher, who never needed to say or do anything for me, that came and said, a sentence or something that empowered me, I thought, oh my gosh, this is a game changer. So why don't we encourage more of that? And having been a teacher, I know that how swamped you get how swamped by curriculum and marking and assessment evaluation that you get as a teacher. And so sometimes it helps to have someone from the outside come in, even if it's just for an hour, even if it's just for a small workshop or something like that, to pour into your program to give you that outside perspective. It makes a difference. It shows us all that someone else out there cares.
Yeah, it really does. And it's so incredibly encouraging to be on the receiving end of that and have someone on the outside come in and give you affirmation. And they just soak that up, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
So fast forward a few years, and these teens that you are working with, perhaps now they are coming to you for speaking leadership, or you're also a TEDx speaker coach. I think we've talked about the biggest problem is self-confidence. Hopefully we can address those at the high school level and have confident young adults. But if someone is struggling with that, and it is a big struggle, and maybe they didn't have the background or the support systems in place when they were younger that would affirm them. So now they have the gift. They want to go out into the world and make an impact, make a difference. And maybe they have an opportunity to speak, but then it's like one of them, oh shoot moments. What do I do now? What suggestions could you give someone to begin to be more authentic, be more confident, improve their self-image when they're thinking about having to give that TEDx speech or any kind of a speech or any kind of an opportunity to share their vision or share their message with people? What could our listeners do to begin to improve in that area?
One of my favorite people in the world, Joseph McClendon III. He works closely with Tony Robbins. He's the top trainer for Tony Robbins and all the things that he does. And he says, you have to cheat. You have to essentially brainwash yourself and lie to yourself for good. And what he does is essentially helps people to create, I call it a speaker's contract. A lot of people call it different things, but I call it a speaker's contract or a personal contract. And essentially what I love to do in the early phases of working with someone is to identify, who do you want to be? If you could be the person that you wanted to be and you got to choose, what are the qualities that exemplify that? Now, here's when you know that you've gotten the right qualities. When you say them, they scare you. So if you're already confident, or if you're already, whatever the case may be, we don't want those in your contract. We want to say things that push you to your edge. So as an example, and it changes, but my personal contract nowadays is, I'm an unapologetic, joyfully audacious, unmessable leader. Why? Well, because I'm not always unapologetic. Right? I have to remind myself. Make no mistake, I wrote the book to remind myself. Yeah. I'm not always unmessable, right? Someone will say something or do something or something will happen, and then it takes me time to recover. And I think to myself, what if I could reduce my recovery time? Right? So what are those words for you that speak to you? Who would you want to be when you're standing on that stage receiving that standing ovation? Who's the person who needs to close that next deal, or whatever the case may be, right? That's applicable for that person. Mm-hmm. And you put it on a timer on your phone. You set your alarm 5 to 10 times a day, and every time the phone goes off, you recite your little contract to yourself, and then you celebrate. Now, according to Joseph McClendon, his branding is astitude. And so he says you need to shake your ass when you celebrate, because there's something physiological that happens and psychological that happens in the brain when you do that. He says it's impossible not to feel better or change your state when you do that. But celebrate whatever way works for you.
I think you're right. I think he's right, because just thinking about doing that automatically makes me chuckle and changes my mental state.
Exactly. So whatever it is that makes you celebrate, if it's a little bit of astitude, then great. But, and you do that 5 to 10 times a day for the first week and the second week and the third week and the third month and the third year. And you're going to start to see, actually very quickly, I've worked with lots of clients who do this. And I had a client recently she was in the corporate world in real estate technology. She hadn't closed a deal for 3 months. And then she started to work with me, and we started working on this contract, and she started reciting and some other little things that we added in. And then she closed 3 deals in a week.
Wow.
And the only thing that changed, she said to me, she says, David, I leave my house now and I feel like I'm in the Devil Wears Prada. Like I have this confidence that I'm just unstoppable now. And it's literally like you trick yourself into thinking that. And I don't even think it's a trick. Really what it is you're becoming who you were already meant to be. You're just reminding yourself, this is who I am.
Yeah, I love that.
And we forget.
Yeah, we do. We've been so used to following everyone else's scripts and for so long that we forget who we are. And so I really love how you take people, not just telling them what to say or giving them some exercises, but helping them to really get down into who they are. And then who they are, it just kind of bubbles out. It's not something that they have to sit down and create and say, well, what's my personal brand going to be? That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
What are you working on right now that's got you really excited, David?
So I'm definitely, we kind of hinted at it before. I'm looking at creating a teens being unapologetic series.
Yes.
And I'm always looking for extraordinary performing arts programs who want to build their confidence and their programs up, and attaching that to corporate sponsors and celebrity endorsements. But the idea is to feature, imagine like for a program to feature students from your own school in a book that we'll guarantee is going to go bestseller around the world, and leave that as a legacy behind to build up a program and the confidence in the program, and of course the money, because now you have something that isn't, I mean, I don't know about you, but a bake sale, like 10 cents, 15 cents, $1, that's a lot you need to bake and sell, right?
That's a lot of cupcakes and cookies,
right?
Isn't it?
But who wouldn't buy a book if their kid was featured in it, if their story was shared, right? And now we're talking about $20, $30 at a time or more, right? And we give these kids an opportunity to step into their own power, and as a tool for them to go off and get scholarships in college and beyond. So that's sort of the project that I'm working on right now to bring to life.
I love it. Well, I love all the work that you're doing. You really have your personal mission dialed in. And I like the way that your approach to life and your approach to business, it all just kind of overlaps, and everything just seems to flow, and there's great synergy and energy here. And I really appreciate you sharing your passion with us. Any final thoughts or words of wisdom you'd like to share with our listeners before we call it a wrap?
Yeah, you have a message, a mission, and a vision, and someone is waiting for you. How much longer are you going to make them wait?
Now, that's a good question. So think about that. That's from Davide Di Giorgio. He is a #1 international best-selling author, speaker, TEDx Speaker Coach, leadership coach, and ambassador for creating unprecedented results for uncommon people like you. Check out his website at beingunapologetic.com. Find out more about his best-selling book, Being Unapologetic, or to book David to speak at your event or conference or school. David, it's been a real pleasure to have you on Rebelpreneur Radio today. Thank you so much.
Ralph, thank you so much.
You've been listening to Rebelpreneur Radio with Ralph Brogden. Download the show notes and much more at rebelpreneur.com.